there, and welcome to another episode of Regular Beer Reviews, where regular doesn't refer to the beers reviewed, but to the reviewer, myself. I'm Jesse, and tonight I'm going to be reviewing a beer that I've never had before from a brewery that I discovered only about 5-6 days ago. I did a review on their Doppelbock. I gave it, I believe, a 9 out of 10, and I'm excited to try Einstok Olgerd's Icelandic Pale Ale. Now, I had only just started seeing these beers around, and I had the Doppelbock's, the only one I've ever had from this brewery, and I really, really liked it. So I have high hopes for this beer as well. Let's look at the numbers. Einstok Olgerd Pale Ale out of Akuryri, Iceland. It gets a 79 from Beer Advocate, which is just okay, and that's with 38 ratings. Rate Beer gives this a 60 overall with a 46 in the style, so those numbers are considerably lower than what both sites gave it, the Doppelbock. And the bros have not had this beer. It has an ABV of 5.6% with a year-round availability. Here's a quick description from Rate Beer. It says, American and Bavarian craft come together with the finest Icelandic water to create the Viking version of the pale ale, where robust hoppiness meets smooth malty undertones. Cascade hops give it the American character, while Northern Brewer hops add just enough bitterness to make this ale refreshingly Icelandic. So, that does sound like a refreshing description. Let's read what's on the back of the bottle here. It says, the Einstok Brewery is located just 60 miles south of the Arctic Circle in the fishing port of Akuryri, Iceland. There, the water flows from rain and prehistoric glaciers down the Hichafell mountain and through lava fields, delivering the purest water on Earth and the perfect foundation for brewing deliciously refreshing craft ales. That is the exact same description that it gave on the Doppelbock. So that seems to be more a description of the water than the beer itself. But anyway, look, this one you can see the label a lot clearer than with the Doppelbock. It had a dark green label. I believe it was a winter seasonal, whereas this is a year-round availability. So it had kind of that Christmassy theme to it, and it had those dark green color. And in this light, you just really couldn't see it. But you can really see that Einstok Olgerd Icelandic Pale Ale with the little Viking axes. And yes, on this one, the cap also has the Viking axes, which I do love. I don't save caps, but if I did, I would definitely keep this one. I don't know, I might keep it yet. Who knows? Anyway, let's go on ahead and get this pale ale poured. Oh, yeah. Looks, I would say average, but it's slightly darker than a pale ale. More like an IPA usually has those slightly darker colors. Very hazy. I'd say like a dark, just kind of a dark, I don't want to say like a straw yellow, like a dark gold, kind of a very, very, very light amber. Hazy, you can't see through that at all. You can't see any images. But light does come through. Slightest red tints, more like very light brown, tannish tints. It had about a half finger of nice white head, very white, but it has quickly diminished to like quarter. I don't even know if I'd say a quarter, like an eighth of a finger. It's very thin on the top, kind of a frothy ring at this point. Let's go ahead and get a nose on this beer. Smells, oh man, that smells really, really good. Slight citrus hops, maybe a little bit piney, slightly floral too. There's a nice balance between those two types of hops. Maybe that's where the Cascade and the Northern Brewer hops kind of merge, because there's a nice piney citrusy note that kind of really it's pungent, it stings the nostrils, and then there's a really nice mellow but still very bitter kind of floral hop to it. Very nice balance there. Slight malt profile I'm picking up on. Very yeasty, this beer, but not off-putting, enjoyably yeasty. Smells good. Let's go on ahead and jump into this one. Oh, that is really, really refreshing. Super light mouthfeel for a pale ale. I'd probably give this, excuse me, a slightly lower score on the style as opposed to how much I like this beer, because it doesn't really remind me of a pale ale. This reminds me of like a really hoppy lager. Like a lager with a more hoppy profile, like Sam Adams Boston Lager or something. This reminds me of a hoppy lager. But still, I mean, overall, for how I like this beer, this is a really, really good beer. I mean, it's refreshing for a pale ale. It really quenches my thirst. It's slightly bitter. I mean, I can definitely taste those hops. Very floral on the taste. Not really too piney at all. Very floral. Um, kind of picking up on a little bit of a sweet bready yeast in the background. And the hops are right up front. Kind of back of the palate. The hops are like up front, kind of middle of the palate. That kind of sweet bready yeast is like back of the palate. But the hops, slightly piney in the taste, slightly citrusy, but really, really floral. Super enjoyable. Excuse me, super enjoyable, well balanced. For a pale ale, I'd have to say it's definitely something different. Mm, I definitely like this beer. Definitely. For pale ale, like I said, it doesn't really remind me so much of a pale ale when I taste it. The bitterness isn't really there, but it still tastes super refreshing, and that floral hop flavor is very, very fresh. It doesn't taste like something that's just been sitting around. Um, it tastes like a very fresh beer. I don't think they have freshness dates on there, but man, it seems like all week every beer that I've gotten does not have a freshness date on the bottle. I look, and I can never find them. I'm not seeing a freshness date on this bottle, but it doesn't taste like the bitterness isn't there because the hop character is faded. I can taste the hops. Slight bit of pininess, really, really floral. Slight bitterness, but not anything that's like over the top. I mean, I really enjoy a nice, like, bitterly hoppy beer. But this is really enjoyable too. It's super refreshing. This, I would say, is definitely a good transition beer if you like those piney, citrusy, sometimes kind of floral hop characters in beers. You like that flavor, but you don't like the bitterness. You know, you like those hoppier lagers, Sam Adams, and beers like that have a nice hop profile but aren't overly bitter. And you want to kind of get into the hoppier beers like pale ales and IPAs, but you know, having them all at once, it's just too overpowering. It's too much hop. This is a good transition beer. This is a beer that's really going to train your taste buds to say, hey, you know, that's good flavor. You know, that's, you know, bitter hops are, you know, because when I first started drinking IPAs and pale ales, I thought they were too bitter. I thought they were too over the top. I didn't like anything about them. You really have to train your taste buds. It's a required taste. And this is a beer that definitely helps you do that. I'm going to give this beer an 8 out of 10. Excuse me. For the style, I would probably give it like a 6, maybe a 7, because it doesn't remind me of a pale ale. But overall, for enjoyability, I'm going to give this an 8. It's super refreshing. Excuse me. I love that floral taste. Very flowery, very, very tasty. Excuse me. I like the sweet maltiness to it. It is slightly unbalanced. You get more of that. It's not a bitterness, but you get more of that floral hop than you do the kind of sweet maltiness. The maltiness is just in the background, just a hint of maltiness. It's slightly imbalanced, but to me that doesn't necessarily take away from the beer. Being that it is a pale ale, I'd expect to taste more maltiness or excuse me, expect to taste more hoppiness than maltiness. But this is, I mean, this is a really good beer. It doesn't have that bitter bite that you would. But for a pale ale, I suppose that's good. It's not an IPA, so the bitterness shouldn't be super high. So, again, for the Einstok Olgerd's Icelandic Pale Ale. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think it's a pretty good beer. I would give it a 6 or 7 for the style, but I mean, I really enjoy this beer. It doesn't remind me so much of a pale ale, but it's a damn good beer. If you see it, pick it up. Thanks for watching, and keep watching again in the future for more reviews. Prost.